Hey, what's up? It's Jim, and this is Movie Crap. So this is my weekly movie news show where I talk about movie news and articles and trailers that I want to talk about, but mostly movie news. It's just a bunch of movie crap. Sorry I wasn't here last week, but there's a whole bunch of movie news to talk about now because I wasn't here last week. Anyway, first up, I think this is probably the biggest news that everyone's talking about was all the Black Panther stuff that dropped. First, the poster dropped and everyone was like, okay, he's sitting in a chair. That's neat, I guess. I mean, it wasn't really exciting, the poster. But then the trailer dropped and I think everyone went, holy shit, this is awesome. It didn't show enough hand-to-hand combat. I like seeing his female bodyguards. I'm excited for this movie. Michael B. Jordan's hair is like insane. Of course, he has to be in any Ryan Coogler film. It just gave you a taste. It was interesting. Marvel didn't do their typical kind of Marvel-y type of score. They let them actually do a rap song. I thought that was actually appropriate, and I think it generally works. I'm kind of more interested in seeing more of a trailer with more of like a plot or a premise. This was kind of like, hey, there's going to be a Black Panther movie and look at all this cool stuff, but that seemed to be enough for almost everyone at this point. So they did a good trailer of them just going like, hey, look at all this cool stuff. Aren't you into Black Panther? And I think from the internet it was a resounding yes, we are very into Black Panther and we'd very much like to see this movie, but I think they need to do a little bit more from the ad campaign going forward. But as of where they are right now, it was amazing. I was surprised it dropped on a Friday night until someone on Twitter was like, the NBA finals are right now, and I'm like, what's an NBA final? Sorry for the change of location, I needed to put this in there. The first episode of the new reboot of Ducktales is going to premiere on August 12th and is going to play repeatedly for 24 hours. I guess this is kind of to mimic what happened with Rick and Morty recently with that season premiere, but the difference between this season premiere and the Rick and Morty one, where we haven't really seen the new season, or at least I don't think we haven't, right? That hasn't come out. I hope it hasn't. I really like that show. It hasn't, right? Has it? I don't think it has. Anyway, Ducktales will then premiere later, almost over a month later, on September 23rd, and will end up airing 2 episodes every time. This time, the first one is going to be an hour-long episode, and then after that, there'll just be 2 episodes, which I assume it'll be a half-hour show, but we'll see where it goes from there. So that's the detail with DuckTales. Also, the new theme song premiered. I didn't really like the cover version of it, but I love the animation. The animation in the new DuckTales things looks amazing and has not disappointed me whatsoever. But the song, I didn't like how the vocals were mixed. I really didn't like the cover. I honestly would have just preferred they stuck with the old theme song. Maybe I'm just being too nostalgic and such, but I just didn't think it held up at all. I will definitely be watching a lot of this show, and I am definitely ready for a duck blur. Patty Jenkins, kind of everyone assumed, was contractually obligated to do a Wonder Woman 2, since that's kind of usually what they do when a director is signed on to do a superhero movie, is they're signed on to do the sequel. And there are even press and news clippings saying, well, Patty Jenkins would be back with Gal Gadot. And Gal Gadot's deal is kind of set, and Gal Gadot will be back if there is a Wonder Woman 2, but Patty Jenkins has not signed a deal yet, which is interesting that Warner Brothers managed to do something right by like making a good movie and then still managed to screw up by like, not signing the director to a second movie. No one knows exactly what's going to happen. A lot of people have kind of insinuated that what is possible is she could get 8 figures for this, which would be about $10 million plus, which would be the first time a female director has gotten 8 figures from a studio film, which would be a huge deal and might be what actually happens. I think that is very plausible, particularly because this thing is just doing insanely well, and we'll get into more of that during the box office part. Warner Brothers not thinking ahead could cost them millions, and just because they had overall deals with so many other directors that didn't work out, they should have maybe thought it through and done it with this one, and I don't know why they didn't do it before. They might have tried to, and her agent wouldn't let them until it opened because they knew something was afoot, and Warner Brothers, they're gonna end up paying for this one because if they can't get her for a sequel, I'm probably not going to be as interested, because the main reason I really like that movie was not only Gal Gadot, but it's what Patty Jenkins did with it, and I think most people would agree with me on that, although I think most people probably don't care, but I think I care at least. So I hope it works out for her for the better, but it looks like it will because Warner Brothers really screwed up not signing her. Now I'm going to cut to special guest correspondent Paleo Steno to talk about Captain Underpants.
Thank you, Jim. So Captain Underpants released earlier this month, and it could change the way that US feature animation works. It's the first DreamWorks production to be outsourced to a non-DreamWorks studio. And it's also the cheapest CGI film that DreamWorks has ever made at only $38 million. While pretty much all the pre-production was done in California, the outsourcing for the animation, the lighting, the effects, and everything was done in Canada at Micros. And by doing that, they saved about $100 million. These days, big-budget animated features can cost upwards to $150 million, so this is a big deal. Unfortunately, I think they should have waited to release the film because they released it on the same weekend as Wonder Woman, and that's doing gangbusters right now, so it has a very strong competition. And also releasing it so close to Boss Baby, I think was a mistake. Because the film is definitely the better of the two DreamWorks films this year. It's very creative and does a lot of interesting things with different animation styles. But since it had such a cheap budget, DreamWorks is more likely to do this again, and possibly other studios might follow suit. Back to you, Jim.
And thank you very much, Paleo. And if you'd like to check out his videos, subscribe to his channel. And the POS podcast is back. I'm not on it anymore, but it is back, and you should watch those, and you should watch any of his videos because I love his content, and he's a good guy and a good friend, and thank you, Paleo, very much for doing that. It was announced saying there's a trailer for a short, which I guess is a thing that people do other than people who are submitting to film festivals or something, for a Frozen short that's going to play before Coco, which I kind of think is bullshit because I like seeing cool Pixar shorts. I don't really need a Frozen short. Should be on a Disney movie, and I get maybe they're a little worried about Coco and they like doing these Frozen shorts because I guess it gets people to come out. I don't know, but there's going to be a new one. It's going to be like an Olaf's Adventure or something. Yay. Chris Evans, or Captain America, says that Avengers 4 wraps it all up. Avengers 4 actually had to be added or amended or whatever onto his Marvel contract. He says it's all going to wrap up with Avengers 4, and it looks like he will be done after the second Infinity War Gauntlet movie. I guess, I don't know, whatever that's called, Avengers 4 will probably wrap it all up for him, or at least that's what he says. It was announced today that Simon Kinberg is officially going to direct X-Men Dark Phoenix, which isn't surprising because we sort of knew that he was going to be directing it, and that was already rumored, and that the next one was going to be Dark Phoenix, which I don't think is a good idea, but they're going to do anyway. More surprising thing is that James McAvoy, Michael Fassbender, and Jennifer Lawrence are all going to come back for that movie. The most surprising is probably Jennifer Lawrence because she's kind of a big movie star, so I'm a little shocked at that. I don't know if they offer like enough money that it didn't matter. McAvoy's a little bigger now because of Split, believe it or not, so I'm surprised about that. Fassbender is the least surprising, not because, I mean, he's certainly a great actor, but I think the whole thing with Assassin's Creed kind of changed his mind about that one. That's kind of interesting. I do not really want them to do Dark Phoenix at all. I think it's sort of a bad move, especially for a first-time director. I wish they'd maybe do a different X-Men story, but whatever. It's going to continue on the already established thing, I guess, that they're already doing, and it's probably going to be really Mystique heavy because Jennifer Lawrence is there and stuff. Ryan Coogler and Michael B. Jordan will be teaming up together again for a movie called Wrong Answer, which is about one of the biggest cheating scandals in U.S. history. Cheating scandals for school, not for any of the other stuff that's cooler. This film, if you've probably heard of it before and go, this is old news or something, it's they actually got the financing, which seems to work out very close to when Black Panther happened, and even the writer is currently writing the current Black Panther comic book, so it's interesting. A lot of the Black Panther people are coming over to do this, but Michael B. Jordan literally been in every Ryan Coogler film. I love watching those two together, and I think it'll be an interesting film, and it's cool that he's immediately after Black Panther going to do something more of a smaller drama, which I think Ryan Coogler's more known for, and it's cool that he didn't immediately want to do a big movie. He's immediately doing a film that he's really interested in doing, which I think shows a lot for his character as a director, and I'm interested anyway because I like both of them a hell of a lot. Adam Wingard posted on Twitter what he felt were his top 5 Godzilla movies, so check those out. It'll give you kind of a taste of what he's thinking about doing for the new Godzilla movie. Recently, Glenne Headily died, unfortunately. She was probably most known for Dick Tracy, or at least for me, from Dick Tracy, and certainly recently The Night Of. Kind of went under the radar, but Glenne Headily was definitely a part of my childhood, and, you know, in Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, and I think a really great actress, and it's kind of a shame no one really talked about it. I think that's kind of a shame, because I thought she was always a good actress, and had such a unique presence, that kind of like whispery, wistful voice that I always really loved. Also, obviously, R.I.P. to Adam West, who I think was probably the first Batman I was ever into. I retweeted the thing from Kevin Conroy, and I think the coolest thing about Adam West was Adam West got to be the height of TV popularity, and then he was lame for a very long time for most people, and it has been, and then he got to have a huge comeback in the 90s and be a huge voice actor, and it's cool to see the whole kind of arc of his career. And even it's sad because I didn't get to see that animated Batman thing with him and Burt Ward, and it seemed like he was going to do more stuff with that. And they announced a sequel, I thought. I don't know what's going on with that. I'd like to know, to be honest, or if they started work on it, or if they recorded voices or whatever. I kind of want to see that now, to be honest. I think that show was a lot cooler and a lot better than people give it credit for, but I think Adam West was always someone I perked up when I saw him on screen, or if I saw him on a TV show or anything like that. I think he's probably most known for his TV work. Definitely a huge legacy in pop culture, probably bigger than most people could ever dream of. Certainly someone who was the first Batman I ever really got into. You know, when I couldn't see Tim Burton's Batman, Adam West was always there for me. The Bright Knight was there. Danny Elfman will be doing the score for Justice League. Originally it was that guy Junkie XL or Chunky XL or somebody, but Danny Elfman will be doing the score for Justice League, which is actually pretty cool. And Terry Gilliam has also finished Don Quixote, believe it or not. I think no one believes it's done, to be honest. It seems like everyone's like, is something gonna happen? Like, is the hard drive gonna get erased? I don't think anyone believes it, but he says it is, so hey, good for him. I think we're all rooting for him on that one. But if you now, the interesting thing would be to watch the documentary about them trying to make it the first time, that whole disaster. If you haven't gotten to check out the Papers cast, which is the new film from Steven Spielberg, which has Tom Hanks and Meryl Streep, and believe it or not, Steven Spielberg has never worked with Meryl Streep in a whole movie. I think he's directed her for small little things, but never for a whole film like this. The cast for his new film also has Bob Odenkirk and David Cross and Sarah Paulson and a crazy amount of people, which of course Spielberg can do. It seems like an interesting film about the Pentagon Papers, and I'm very excited for it. It looks like it's going to come out in the winter, but it seems like a crazy stacked cast, of course, and I think it's going to be really cool. With the New Mutants movie, they have casted Danny Moonstar, who's kind of the centerpiece of the whole Demon Bear saga from the New Mutants comics, which is what the New Mutants movie is going to be based on. She's an unknown called Blue Hunt. I don't really know her, to be honest. Or do I know her? Maybe I do. Anyway, but now that she's cast, it seems to be interesting. They also cast the kid from Stranger Things, the kid who is Winona Ryder's son, but not the one in the Upside Down, the other one, the teenage one. He's Cannonball, and then another kid from 13 Reasons Why or something. I don't really know his Sunspot. It seems like they might even cast other mutants. We don't entirely know what the team's going to be, but it's interesting they went with someone unknown for it, because Danny Moonstar is a really important character, especially if they're doing Demon Bear. So I'm really curious about her, and if she can step up to the challenge, but they've at least casted that. And this is probably like in news that only matters to me, but whatever. It was recently discovered that 500 hours of Adam Sandler movies have been watched on Netflix since The Ridiculous Six. There was a thing where they did the math of the 500 hours of however many Netflix users there are, and discovered that the average Netflix user has watched at least 3 Adam Sandler movies. The thing is, everyone's saying Adam Sandler movies. That's still scary, but here's the thing about that, is that they didn't say were those Netflix original Adam Sandler movies, or just like Billy Madison and The Wedding Singer and stuff, because I think there's a huge difference between those two. But that is a little depressing that Adam Sandler's so popular, but I guess it shouldn't be, because most of his following originated from VHS rentals, so it actually makes a lot of sense. One trailer, and I wanted to talk about this before when I usually talk about trailers, was Motherfuckers, I think, and it looked really cool. I really say check it out. This is a link from Cartoon Brew, but it looks like a really cool film. It was done by Japanese and French animation studios working together, and it looks actually really promising to me. So, box office, what's been good and what's been bad. So basically, Wonder Woman, after having its historic #1 last weekend, with first film directed by a female director to make over $100 million in one weekend, not overall, obviously, it did incredibly well, holding better than any other DCEU film ever has, lessening only by 43% from weekend 1 to weekend 2, which is, the others were in the 60s or 70, got close to 70, which is pretty bad, but 43 is pretty good, and it's already made over $200 million, which shows also that a lot of people are seeing this film on the weekdays, that this is not following a usual trajectory, I guess, to make money for a blockbuster, which I kind of thought would happen, and is going to happen. So that's really good news for Wonder Woman. Captain Underpants actually gained screens, believe it or not, and is actually not falling apart too badly, but I wish it was actually making more money than it was because I really liked it. But it's holding up fairly okay, but I think after Cars 3 comes out, it doesn't have a chance in hell. Pirates of the Caribbean's made over 100 million somehow. I don't know, that happened. The Mummy only made 31 million here, but still had the biggest global opening ever for a Tom Cruise movie. So as much as everyone wants to say the Dark Universe thing is falling apart, I don't think it's as falling apart as maybe people want to act like it is, but it doesn't. I don't know. The next one, Bride of Frankenstein. I think that one has a lot more promise. It Comes at Night, which everyone thought was going to make over 10 million, which would have put it at number 4, only made about 5 million. That movie really didn't take the way everyone thought it was. Even me, who did a review of it stupidly, I'm not too surprised because the audience just wasn't really that into it. Apparently there is going to be an animated Starship Troopers movie, and it is going to go straight to theaters. I didn't know there's going to be an animated Starship Troopers movie. I know they made like direct to DVD or video sequels, but an animated Starship Troopers movie has me a little interested. I think I might actually check that out. There's going to be a new Richard Linklater movie starring Bryan Cranston, Steve Carell, and Lawrence Fishburne. It's about 3 Vietnam vets taking one of the Vietnam vets' son to his final burial place after dying in, I think, Iraq or something. But it looks really cool, and it will premiere at the New York Film Festival, and that has a hell of a cast. I'm glad Bryan Cranston looks like he might actually be in something good this time. Infamous and I guess legendary film critic Rex Reed was fired from the New York Observer. He has been working there for 60 years. Even if I was never a fan of Rex Reed personally, I never really liked his reviews or him as a person that much, but it is sad to hear he was fired. He had kind of like a pretty long tenure at the New York Observer, and he was actually fired kind of indirectly because of Jared Kushner, who bought the New York Observer, and now since he's working for Trump and all that, sold the New York Observer or something. Anyway, it's Jared Kushner's fault to a certain degree. I'm not saying that to be political or anything. It actually seems to be. So that's the end of Rex Reed. His last review, major review, I guess, was for Wasteland and for Alien Covenant. This was an interesting piece, and there's been a lot about from Vulture that says don't blame critics for bad blockbusters. And Vulture did a piece, and even A.O. Scott did something. It's kind of an interesting thing that, like, when movie stars make bad movies, they say, I didn't make this for the critics, I made it for the fans, and that's usually a big indication that they made a shitty movie. And it seems like the critics are really, like, fighting back, particularly because The Rock said it. I don't know how The Rock with Baywatch was really when people were like, whoa, if The Rock's saying this now, we're not putting up with this bullshit anymore. I don't know, but the Vulture had probably the best one that summed it up. But I also love A.O. Scott's ending line for his review for The Mummy. I'm not a huge A.O. Scott fan, but that's a pretty good end of a review right there. Alright, let's move on to, well, this isn't really a trailer, but we're moving on to trailers. Probably one of the coolest things that not enough people are talking about is the Ant-Man cartoons that have been playing on Disney XD. I guess this isn't a movie thing, but to me it is, and they look really, really cool. So if you can, check those out. They're like worth watching. There was a Coco trailer. I just am not impressed with this movie. I'm sorry. It's just like, I like Pixar, and it's not just the Book of Life thing. I just am not really into this movie. Honestly, it doesn't seem like a good idea. The Book of Life comparison doesn't help it. Other than that, it's just like, to me, it's like, I like Lee Ulrich. I like what he did with Toy Story 3. I don't think this doesn't look very good to me. I'll see it, but I'm not really excited for this. This is just kind of like a movie. I'm just like, you know, whatever, Pixar. I mean, I'm glad they're doing something original, but I'm like so not excited for Coco at all. There was a trailer released for In This Corner of the World, which is based on a manga and is going to be released by Shout Factory, and it looks pretty cool, so check it out. And finally, the Murder on the Orient Express trailer came out recently and had embarrassing music, and I'm a little curious about it, except for like the Kenneth Branagh as Perot thing, which is kind of like, okay, so you cast yourself in the big role in the movie. Alright, dude. I don't know if anyone really wants a Kenneth Branagh acting comeback, but he seems to, you know, remember when he did Jack Ryan Shadow Recruit and nobody saw it? I'm just saying. It's actually a fairly good trailer in setting up the various characters and things like that. In terms of him being Perot, that was a little embarrassing, and the music was embarrassing, but someone did a YouTube video of Murder on the Orient Express trailer with better music, which I think you should check out. It's pretty funny. So that was Movie Crap. Thank you very much for Paleo for taking the time and being on this episode of Movie Crap. Thank you all very much for watching. Click on the links below if you're interested in any of these things. But anyway, yeah, so that was Movie Crap. Those are all the movie news things. Hopefully I will be back next week. Oh, and I had videos of Mystery Science Theater episode of The Loves of Hercules. I had an exclusive video for my Patreon people. I had a review of It Comes at Night, of Wonder Woman, both the animated one and the from 2009 and the new one, and a review of the infamous short Duck and Cover, so check all those out if you can. Thank you very much for watching, and subscribe if you would like to.